What are we discussing on today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast? The D-backs blew game one to the LA Dodgers, courtesy of Paul Sewald. So we'll talk about that game and hand out some first half awards to the D-backs this season.
You are Locked on Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. You're listening to who? The always charismatic host of this podcast, Millard Thomas. I'm a multimedia journalist and I'm a graphic designer, so please go check out my website, millardthomas24.myportfolio.com. I'm there to see all my latest work, from my packages to my articles to my photos and my graphic design. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/lockedonmlb and use code all lowercase LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match up to $100. On today's Locked on Diamondbacks podcast, we'll talk about the D-backs blowing game one to the LA Dodgers. Is Christian Mena starting game two? And we'll hand out some first half awards. Thank you for making Locked on Diamondbacks your first listen every day. I would not be able to do this podcast without you, my loyal listeners, sharing, subscribing, reviewing, doing all that so I could do this podcast for you. Thank you. It's free. It's available on all platforms, so please continue to tell your friends. And one of those platforms is YouTube. Please hit subscribe to Locked on Diamondbacks on YouTube. Now let's get into the podcast and let's talk about that game one loss to the LA Dodgers, because it was frustrating. It was one of those games where entering the ninth inning, Paul Sewald coming in, I was envisioning, a potential series win. I was like, on the podcast yesterday, I talked about it. If the D-backs can steal one of the first two games, I like them to potentially win the series with Zach Gallen on the mound in the finale. Then entering the ninth inning, I was like, I think it's going to happen. I think the D-backs are going to win game number one, because that's how it's set up. And then I think potentially Zach Gallen could win the series finale. We could win back-to-back series against the LA Dodgers. I was thinking 10 steps ahead entering the ninth inning. Little did I know, I should not have done that. We know how potent this Dodgers offense is. We know how clutch it could be, and they clutched up against the Arizona Diamondbacks, because Paul Sewald entering the ninth inning against the Dodgers, he's been perfect this season. 11 for 11 with save opportunities. He has gone with a .54 ERA entering the ninth inning. He's been perfect this season. I was actually at a sports bar watching the game with my homie, and I was talking to him entering the ninth inning. I was like, is Paul Sewald the greatest D-backs closer ever? He's the best D-backs closer since I've taken over this podcast. I was throwing out high praise for Paul Sewald, saying he should potentially be in the All-Star game. I don't think he should be the starting closer because the dude from the Cardinals is having a great season, but I was like, Sewald has a case for the All-Star game. Maybe he's the greatest D-backs closer of like the last 10 plus years. Like, I was throwing out some high praise for Paul Sewald. And to start the inning, he was living up to my praise. Got the first two outs of the ninth, but then Will Smith, the D-backs killer, he comes up, he crushes the ball for a double. Then right after him, Freddie Freeman, he delivers a big hit. He delivers a double. Then Teoscar Hernandez single to score Freddie Freeman. 2 earned runs given up by Paul Sewald. Dodgers walk off the D-backs, and they were so close to victory. Shohei Ohtani struck out on a pitch near his neck. Like, it looked like it was set up perfectly for the D-backs. You had a great comeback late in the game. Jake McCarthy created chaos in the 8th. He pinch hit for Eugenio Suarez, where it's like, first of all, why is Eugenio Suarez still on the D-backs? He should have been DFA'd with Alek Thomas returning. It didn't happen, but Jake McCarthy, a man on first. I hate bunting with no outs and a man on first. D-backs to do a Corbin Carroll that led to an out. We did it again with Jake McCarthy. Worked out this time. He bunts to the point where the ball gets thrown around all over the place. Gabriel Moreno scores. Jake McCarthy goes to second. D-backs create chaos. Jake the Rake delivers a perfect bunt, and D-backs tied up in the eighth. And then Jock Peterson, who had himself a great day against his former team, 2 for 5, 2 runs scored. He hits a solo home run in the top of the ninth to give the D-backs the lead. It feels like everything is working for the D-backs. You get the chaos to tie it up in the eighth. You get the solo shot by Jock Peterson in the ninth. Paul Sewald comes out in the bottom of the ninth, gets 2 quick outs, strikes out Shohei Ohtani. It feels like everything is set up for the D-backs to potentially win the game, but unfortunately they can't do it. Even going back to the seventh, Ketel Marte was able to score Geraldo Perdomo. Like, the D-backs were getting clutch hit after clutch hit to put themselves in a tie ball game or give themselves the lead. But the Otanis, the Freemans, the Teoscars, the Will Smiths, the best players in the Dodgers lineup also came through in a big way in the clutch. And with the Dodgers being vulnerable right now with the Mookies and the Yamamotos down, like we discussed how this was a very winnable series for the D-backs and a series that they need to win in a big way. You get Alek Thomas back, and there was a moment where the D-backs could have gone a big Alek Thomas hit, bases loaded, no outs, and he was not able to come through. The D-backs blew some opportunities. Paul Sewald blew it in the ninth inning. You had bases loaded, nobody out. In the fourth inning, where you have things cooking, Christian Walker hits the 2-run home run to tie up the game, and Alek Thomas can't do anything. Geraldo Perdomo pops out. He can't do anything either. D-backs blow a great opportunity. And in a game where you lose by 1 run and get walked off in the ninth, you could have definitely used a couple of insurance runs in that inning. D-backs have no one to blame but themselves after this game. They're now 3 games below 500. They are still struggling against the better teams in Major League Baseball. If you have a above 500 record in the sport, the D-backs are probably going to lose to you. They're now 3 games back in the wild card mix. It is not pretty for the D-backs. They need to start playing better. They need a big win in game number 2. I like the way that the offense looked in game 1. Hopefully they could keep it going in game 2. You had 10 hits total. You were able to put runners on consistently against Bobby Miller, but at the end of the day, 1 for 8 with the runners in scoring position. I don't like the way that they set up the pitching. I don't like the fact that you started with the opener. Instead of just starting with the Ryan Nelson, you went with the opener with Mantiply, and you didn't even let Mantiply finish the inning. You made Ryan Nelson come in with a man on second with major pressure on. Like, Ryan Nelson ended up having a good start, ended up going 5 innings. I guess he didn't start because he came out the pen, but I would have much rather him start the game than doing this whole bullpen fiasco shenanigans. I just think it makes absolutely no sense. It's another decision that I question because I just don't like the fact that the D-backs did that at all. And at the end of the day, the bullpen did not come through for the D-backs in game number 1. And also the D-backs offensively at times, yes, they got 10 hits, but also blew some opportunities with runners in scoring position. So after game number 1, no one to blame but yourself if you're the Arizona Diamondbacks. And we'll talk about ways that they can improve, potentially win game number 2 in segment number 2. But before we preview game number 2, I want to talk to you guys about booking.com. Yeah, because this episode of Locked On Diamondbacks is brought to you by booking.com with summer travel. I think I just said summer travel as one word, Savile. With summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly want to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rival cities with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on booking.com. You might just find your perfect stay, even in your baseball rival city. From hotels that look over stadiums to family-friendly resorts, booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this MLB season. A New York fan heading to Boston to catch a baseball game on Boston's turf who wants their team to win, but is also excited to have lobster rolls and falls in love with their waterfront hotel. Why not, if you're a New York fan? Why not go to Boston and get a lobster roll and catch a Red Sox game? Sounds like a great time, to be honest. So The right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on booking.com, on the site, or in the booking.com app. Booking.com, booking.yeah. And also, if you want to buy any tickets for any upcoming MLB games, why not check out Game Time, because the best ticketing app, best for last minute deals, save up to 60% off buying last minute tickets for sports, concerts, comedy theater, and more. Flash deals save you even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Zone deals save you even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the seats. They have all-in pricing, which shows you the total cost up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And you can even get a panoramic view of your seat before you buy. Take the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKDOWNMLB for $20 off. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKDOWNMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, all right, all right. Let's get back into the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, and let's talk about game number 2, because originally this was supposed to be Jordan Montgomery potentially getting his redemption against the Dodgers, because he was very bad against the Dodgers at Chase Field earlier this season, and it could have been a redemption opportunity for him. But instead, he goes on the injured list, and right now the Dbacks have someone in their clubhouse who we have not seen yet make his debut in a Arizona uniform. Christian Mena. He has been in the clubhouse, and Torey Lovullo has talked about how it's been the worst kept secret that he's supposed to be starting on a Wednesday, and this is really exciting. I think Christian Mena has the tools to be a mid-rotation starter, maybe a pretty good number 3 starter at his ceiling. I like his pitching arsenal. He throws a four-seamer that sits around 93 miles per hour, but his secondary stuff off of it is also pretty good. Curveball, slider, changeup, a little 4-pitch arsenal. Every pitch grades out pretty well. I think Christian Mena has a chance to be pretty good in the D-backs uniform. I don't know if he'll be good right away. Start number 1 against the LA Dodgers, but I like the future of Mena. He's only 21 years old. The ERA, it's not going to look great being down there in Reno in AAA, because we know the stats are inflated when you're in the D-backs minor league system. The whip isn't good. The ERA isn't good. He does walk a decent amount of people, but he also gets a decent amount of strikeouts. Mena is someone that I'm very excited to see make his debut, because he's someone that I think could be a fixture in this D-backs rotation potentially going forward. I think he could be a guy that sticks around for a while with the Arizona Diamondbacks. I think trading him for Dominic Fletcher could end up being a steal for the D-backs, and I'm very intrigued by Christian Mena. Is he going to be elite? I don't know. I don't think so, but could he be a pretty good starter for a long time? Potentially. I do think he has the talent to do that. So we'll see how he looks in game number 1 against the LA Dodgers. We want to see how hard he can throw. Want to see that velocity up, like the profile Christian Mena, 6'2", 200 pounds, and only 21 years old. We'll see how he looks in his debut. And some questions that I have: maybe we don't pitch to Shohei Ohtani, just throwing it out there as a question. Obviously, he struck out in the 9th inning, but on the day, 3 for 5. Shohei Ohtani had the home run, which was a massive blast against the D-backs. I mean, he crushed it for 433 feet. It was a shot off the bat. I thought maybe Jock Peterson and Christian Walker went back-to-back in the 9th. The way the cameraman set it up, I thought Christian Walker laid into one. Even by Christian Walker's reaction, I thought he thought maybe he hit a home run too. Obviously, didn't happen. The Shohei Ohtani home run, 112 miles per hour as well. Home run in all 30 ballparks. Just absolutely crushed. Maybe we don't pitch to Shohei Ohtani. I mean, he is a scary guy at the plate, and he's batting leadoff. I mean, I'm not afraid to walk the leadoff hitter, because that's how dangerous Ohtani is. Also, not afraid to walk Will Smith. He is a D-backs killer. Almost 1,000 OPS in his career against the D-backs. Almost a 300 average against the D-backs in his career. I mean, he has crushed the D-backs historically. I would not be afraid if the D-backs want to walk him every single time either. Then also, are we going to see Christian Walker continue to crush the LA Dodgers because once again, he had himself another great day in Dodger Stadium, 2 for 5, 2 RBIs. He had himself a home run as well. Christian Walker loves playing in that ballpark for some reason. His numbers are exuberant. I think exorbitant is the right word. He puts up big numbers whenever he plays in that ballpark. In his career, when he plays in Dodger Stadium, Christian Walker entering tonight a 1040 OPS, a 312 average, and 14 home runs in just 31 games started, 39 games overall. Christian Walker loves playing that ballpark and he crushes the Dodgers in that ballpark. So hopefully he can continue to crush it in game number 2. Let's talk about a couple of awards from the first half of the season for the Arizona Diamondbacks. And we'll also hand out some awards in segment number 3, but a couple awards that I want to hand out in this segment. Number 1, the Blink 182 Award. This is the award I'm going to give the Blink 182 award to Corbin Carroll because Corbin Carroll, where are you? Where has Corbin Carroll been this season? It has been a terrible season by Carroll. By WRC Plus, he has been just a couple spots behind Eugenio Suarez. It has not been good for Corbin Carroll. There has been stretches recently where he has been hitting better, but overall in the season, he has not been good. He leaves this game against the Dodgers 0 for 4, a 210 average, a 301 OBP, and a 311 slugging. I believe the broadcast said he hasn't hit a home run in 48 games. It's been since like May 7th since Corbin Carroll has hit a home run. He only has 2 home runs on the season. Jake McCarthy has more home runs than Corbin Carroll. Jake McCarthy should never have more home runs than Corbin Carroll. Jake McCarthy has a 385 slugging. Corbin Carroll's slugging should be around 450. Corbin Carroll last season had a slugging of 506. Carroll has extreme power, not just home run, but double power, triple power, gap power, alley power, down the line power. Like, where has the slugging been for Corbin Carroll this year? That's why he gets the Blink 182 award. Where are you? Because he was an MVP candidate last year, and so far this season, he has looked lost at the plate. He has not looked as confident in his swing. The swing has not been as effective as it was last season, and that's why Corbin Carroll gets the Blink 182 award, and we'll be handing out the rest of the awards in segment number 3. But before we hand out the awards, I want to tell you guys about my favorite daily fantasy sports app called Prize Picks, because Prize Picks has more than 5 million active members. It is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stats projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. Prize Picks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for first deposit match up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks for deposit match up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. All right. Let's get back to the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, and let's wrap up the show by handing out a few more awards. The next award I want to hand out, why not? Let's just hand out the MVP award for the first half of the season. The D-back that's been the best so far has been a pretty easy answer. We've talked about him a bunch on this podcast all year, last week, as he is in the All-Star race, leading second baseman, I believe, right now in the National League for All-Star votes. Ketel Marte has been easily the best player for the D-backs in the first half of the season. I don't know if it's close. 287 average, 353 OBP, and a 517 slugging. And the D-backs dropped a graphic earlier today that just laid out what Ketel Marte has done this season among second basemen. It just laid out the ranks. Ketel Marte amongst second basemen this season in the National League. And I'll tell you this, very nice. runs, number one, hits, number one, extra base hits, number one, RBIs, number one, OPS, number one. Ketel Marte is the best second baseman in the National League right now. Then he has been the MVP for the D-backs in the first half of the season. Clutch go ahead hits in games to deliver big leads or tie it up, as we saw in the game today, where seventh inning, Little Single delivers the D-backs the lead. Obviously, didn't lead to the win, but Ketel Marte typically does his job. Either he puts the D-backs on the board early via him scoring a run or bringing somebody home, or he delivers a big hit late to give the D-backs the lead or tied up. So Ketel Marte is super clutch defensively as well. He looks like arguably the best defensive second baseman at his position as well. Offense, defense, Ketel Marte has done it all this year. He's been consistent. He had a 20-plus game hitting streak as well. Ketel Marte is absolutely a stud, and he's been the MVP for the D-backs in the first half of the season. How about the Cy Young for the D-backs? This one is a little controversial. We had some names. Could have gone Zach Gallen, but I think he's dealt with too many injuries, even though he's probably been the best and is the best pitcher on the D-backs. I think he's had too many injuries. 63 innings pitched compared to Brandon Pfaadt, 100 innings pitched. I don't think I could give it to Zach Gallen. I'm not giving it to Pfaadt either. If his ERA was below 4, maybe, but just too many games where he has one bad inning that blows up his ERA. I love Pfaadt, but I don't think he's been the Cy Young for the D-backs this season. Paul Sewald, bad time to bring it up, but also missed the start of the year due to injury. Just not enough of a sample size, despite him being electric this year. I wouldn't give it to him either. My pick is actually going to be Ryan Thompson. I know Justin Martinez probably has slightly better stats. I think Ryan Thompson has been more consistent from start to finish. I think he's a little bit more trustworthy as well than a Justin Martinez. I love Ryan Thompson as a setup man for the D-backs in the 8th inning. I think he's been incredible. He's been a godsend since the D-backs found him on the waiver wire last year, and right now he's holding it down for the D-backs in the back end of the bullpen. He's a nasty 1-2 punch with Paul Sewald, and you mix in the Ginkles and the Justin Martinez's of the world. I forgot for a second. My brain stopped working. All of a sudden, you have a pretty decent bullpen. And I think the leader in the pen right now, arguably outside of Paul Sewald, is a Ryan Thompson, who's been there the whole season. He's the Cy Young Award winner right now for the D-backs in the first half of the year. Breakout player, though, this one I will give to Justin Martinez. I think he's been the biggest breakout player for the D-backs this season. He's been incredible. I mean, he was a guy that struggled last year with command and giving up a lot of hard contact. He still struggles at times with command. I mean, he has almost 5 walks per 9 innings. He walked somebody today, which led to him giving up a couple earned runs. Like, we still see the mistakes with Justin Martinez, but we also see the raw talent. We obviously a guy that could potentially be the closer of the future for the D-backs. The talent is there. The pitching arsenal is there. His fastball is electric. That averages 100 miles an hour. The sinker, he throws it incredibly hard. Like, the talent is obvious with Justin Martinez. He just needs to clean up his mechanics, and if he can get that cleaned up, there's no doubt about it. He could be the closer of the future for the D-backs. And right now, I think he's the breakout star of the season for Arizona. The most improved player for the D-backs this season, I think this one I give to Jake McCarthy, because he's coming off a season where he was terrible in 2022. Or excuse me, 2023. Broke on the scene in 2022, but in 2023, really struggled in a big way. He was sent up and down between the majors and the minor leagues. He struggled against both righties and lefties last year. Like, it was not a good year for Jake McCarthy, but this season, he's really held it down in the outfield with injuries to Alec Thomas and the struggles of Gurriel and Corbin Carroll this season. Like, Jake McCarthy has been so important, and against lefties, he's absolutely crushed it against lefties. For some reason, that lefty on lefty platoon split has really worked out in Jake McCarthy's favor. He creates chaos. He does what he's asked. He still has all the speed in the world. Jake McCarthy has been a stud this year for the D-backs, getting quality hits left and right. And I love Jake McCarthy, probably arguably my favorite player on this D-backs team. He's been really important. I think he's been the most improved player on this D-back squad from last year. Then the final award I want to hand out, the biggest thief. this is the player that sold the most money from the D-backs this season. I think it's Jordan Montgomery, the highest paid player on the D-backs, currently on the injured list, which you can't blame a guy for injuries, but when he's been healthy, he has been bad over a 6-year array. He has not come through in big games that we've needed him. He has not come through in big finales or set the tone to start series. Like, Jordan Montgomery has been a big disappointment to the D-backs, and with so many injuries this year, we've really needed him at times, but instead, 6.44 ERA, 1.675 whip, 6.2 strikeouts per nine, 11.9 hits per nine. Like, the numbers are bad for Jordan Montgomery. We need to get a better version of him. If the D-backs want to be serious contenders and get back in the wild card race, you need to get the guy that you thought you were signing this offseason. We need to get the guy that looked really good and led and got the Rangers to the World Series and led them to that World Series victory last year. Jordan Montgomery was so good the last 3 years. Has not been good in 2024. And for the D-backs to reach expectations, they need good Jordan Montgomery back. And hopefully this could be a nice little reset for him on the injured list, and then hopefully come back and set the world on fire like we've seen him do it before. Now, that's it for this edition of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast. Come back tomorrow for more Diamondbacks news coverage and insight. And as always, stay safe, stay healthy. Doses.